And welcome back, everybody, to the LJL playoffs here for the Academy scene. I'm at midnight with Melvin Izzle to bring you guys the second game of the night here, our second quarterfinal matchup. It is going to be the likes of CGA Academy facing off against Rascal Jester Academy. Now, Melvin Izzle, we came into this after our little break saying that this wasn't entirely a fair fight. So
Yeah.
I think that the big question for us will be, how does the Rascal Jester Academy look at the likes of CGA and find a weakness in them?
I agree. That is our question. And it's one that I'm looking at going, the best thing I can see is that you haven't really had to show much for the jungle pool. It's only been Lee Sin and Jarvan played for Funui? I believe it was something like that. So trying to pinch that and maybe take away the Lee Sin, ban the Jarvan, would at least cause them to have to go towards something different, which might happen to take them off of the comfort angle. That's the best thing I've got for you in this matchup, because otherwise, CGA really should be winning this hands down.
I kind of have to agree with you. It doesn't feel like a fair fight here against Rascal Jester. CGA has looked pretty damn dominant, I think it's fair to say here. The only, I want to say sign of weakness, right? And I don't even know if it's justifiable to say that this is a sign of weakness, is the mid laner of CGA. You can kind of predict what he's going to do. And here's the strategy, okay? If Zoe is open, he locks in Zoe. Now, if I, a analyst, can work this stuff out, Melvin Izzle, I'd like to think that Cosmic may have an idea that, hey, maybe I should practice stuff that beats Zoe. Like, my first thought is the likes of Aurelia, but apparently Aurelia isn't going to be seeing this game.
Interesting that they're banning it themselves. Makes me think that they want to pick up some kind of control mage early on. Ryze is obviously very strong at the moment. Stealing the Zoe, you're correct, that would be a way to go. We have seen Cosmic go on to that Orianna in their previous matchup, but it did not end too well for them. I think that the Ryze is probably the best shot for the early on, but you have to expect the Zoe follow-up from Kaito if they do go down that route. We have got the obvious Illaoi factor banned away from Rando. Can't let that one through. Do have the Lucian paired with it, so what is going to be the final ban? Will they get rid of this Ryze, or are they okay with playing against it?
I think Kaito's like, all right, take the Ryze. I'm honestly confident there, and instead it will be the Poppy. We do know that Poppy has sort of been rising up in popularity with all of these mobile mages, but Cosmic says, look, if you're going to grab the Zoe, I'm going to try kill you before you're even allowed to play the game.
I like that as an answer. It's very good into the Ryze and the Zoe, outranges the Ryze, and then the Zoe always has to go to the set places when they do the portal jump, so if you do not get CC onto them, it makes them very susceptible. Reason for that Poppy ban? Likely going to be the fact we've only seen Lee Sin and Jarvan for the jungle of CGA here, so picking that first one of the two up. Now, what kind of AP mid top lanes are you going to pair this with? Because there's still a lot of options still on the table. Will we get that Zoe? Or does Kaito have something else up their sleeve that they want to go to? Oh wow, Midnight, you read the script. Zoe was open, and they picked the Zoe.
It's almost like Kaito retreats to his most comfortable champion when he's not entirely sure what he wants to take. But immediately grabbed up on the other side is the Camille Braum. Now, I'm going to put forward an idea that maybe Rascal Jester is putting... Oh, hold up. Okay, apparently that's not the case. So what I was going to say is maybe there's a play where the Camille goes mid, because Camille ruins Zoe in so many ways it's not even close to a fair fight. And then we have Syndra bot lane, because we've seen with the rise of Ziggs, players are more willing to flex these mages down on the bot side of the map. We saw, for example, Alessandra down there with a fasting center combo. So I don't think it's so far out of the realm of possibility that you take Syndra bot and you pair it up with a Braum, because Braum Syndra is actually not awful.
It's a lot of CC that you could stack together for sure, and being able to block the incoming auto attacks from an ADC does give the Syndra time to get her burst down. Along with the fact on a couple patches ago, they reverted the nerf that took Syndra out of the bottom lane, giving her a bit more mana expenditure on the queue now. They can realistically survive lane until they get their lost chapter, which is why for so long we saw the Syndra mid bottom flex as such a deadly prospect.
Exactly. So I don't know if that's going to be true because I feel like Cosmic is a lot more of a mage player than he is a Camille player. But there's always that possibility we have to keep in mind. Because again, we knew the Zoe was coming. It's no surprise here for, I like to think, anyone from the side of CJ, if they've done their homework, say, okay, we'll grab ourselves our Zoe, we'll be fine. And if we know it's coming, surely Rascal Jester is more than aware of that one. So I'm very interested to see what they do with that. And I'm also interested to see if you see the threat of of Syndra Braum in the bottom lane, what are you willing to lock in down there? Like, what do you feel comfortable playing? Because if you play, let's grab a Felios Thresh, right? Is the standard, this is really OP stuff. Last I checked, you can't lantern a Felios out of a Syndra stun before the Syndra stun punches him in the face.
I think the biggest problem that you've got now for CJ in this draft is you've already locked in the Lee Sin Zoe on the first 2 picks. Now you go down to the red 3-4. If you pick Thresh or Aphelios on 3, you know for a fact that the other one is getting banned away during the second rotation ban phase. And if you pick the Aphelios, you're in an even bigger trouble because the follow-up champion you would put next to him after the Thresh is the Braum. So now that pool has been completely pinched. I think that they might need to go for something more defensive like an Ezreal in this bottom lane if they want to try and survive it, because there's not many champions that can successfully scrap with a Syndra in the early game, especially when they have the buffer of Braum who can buy them that time even if they aren't hitting everything.
Exactly. So I think maybe part of me thinks that Tristana wouldn't be awful down there. But then again, Tristana kind of has the same problems of you're just going to get punted. The rocket jump has a buffer, sure, but you're still going to get hit by the Syndra stun. So unless we see, like, I don't know, unless we see.
Go on.
Hey, do you remember that one time we had fasting center with Lee Sin in the LJL? Do you remember that?
Did happen.
I'm just saying, Lee Sin's been locked in. I'm just saying, it's a possibility.
I mean, this is the same team that played the Senna Lissandra bot lane. As we are back into Champ Select, I assume it's going to be the run back up until the point. Yep, quick lock-ins now. That's what we like to see. And we'll have to find out what CJ opt for on their 3rd pick, because they hadn't given that away yet.
Yeah, and they were keeping that on the down low. And again, there is the threat of the Senna / whatever the hell you're feeling like it. The Lee Sin didn't have the greatest performance when we did see it being used before, so I would hope not to see Senna Lee Sin again. But there is that constant worry of there's a lot of flexibility between both of these teams here. The Rel or Leona, if you lock in the Leona, it does put the threat of the Ziggs on the table. So there is that also to keep in mind coming into this.
The thing is about picking a melee support here, they do opt for the Rel, is you're into a Braum no matter what. That one's not getting flexed, and Braum loves playing against melee supports. Thing is, Rel has a similar interaction where Braum can just outstat you with the stun and just being a melee champion themselves, but Rel can steal resistances with that passive. It's something that doesn't necessarily swing the lane out of Braum's favor, but is at least something that can make you competitive. Just needs to have a good brawling ADC to go with it, as we will get the Viego banned by CGA, followed up by Ashe actually getting it taken away by Rascal Jester.
See, the Ashe ban kind of tells me that Rascal Jester aren't really wanting to flex that Syndra down into the bottom lane there. You're not really afraid of an Ashe if you've got a Braum there. So I'm interested to see if we see another AD carry ban thrown at Chico down here in the bottom lane and nothing thrown at Momo, then that pretty much tells me that this is Syndra mid and that Siratama is looking for a very specific map. Like, looking for a, I want to squeeze your champion pool a little bit here, because he gets to know what he's dealing with here. This lock-in tells you who is going in that bottom side of the map here with the Rel.
So if you don't, there is always the option for those shenanigans you're talking about for the Rascal Jester, putting the Syndra in the bottom lane. And I think Ezreal is the safest choice here. The only issue is really not much synergy with Rel. The best thing you could argue is the Magnet Storm can pull people into a true shot barrage, but that's it.
Yeah, it's not a lot of synergy. It's more so just, it's your best option here. If you lock in anything else, Syndra goes bot and Siratama murders you. So yeah, it doesn't synergize, but what other choice do you have, right? So we'll see how that rocks itself.
Yeah, you'd want something like the Yuumi, right? Because you've got the Zoe, Ezreal, Yuumi trio, but the issue is, because they're on red side, you would have had to pick top lane right there and then in that situation, and then you can fall victim to the Camille going mid and shenanigans being thrown at you. As we've talked about, actually, the Aphelios is slow, but that is a big Vayne lock-in. All right, then.
Siratama feeling pretty confident here, going with the Vayne Brawl. Now, those two synergize like a treat. And the Ezreal is probably going to struggle a little bit here. Doesn't have just the firepower to trade out there with the Vayne, assuming she gets close. And on the other side, it is going to be Camille into the Wukong. Or at least I would presume it's going to be Wukong top side there. I don't really see why you would put Wukong.
Yeah, no, that would be the best choice, as you look through, and it is Momo's most played pick. Makes sense into the Camille being able to scrap with, build up that armor and health regen. Thing that I want to look at is particularly from Siratama. We had a very professional interview earlier, and definitely not just them tweeting, saying that they might just win everything TBH. So this has got to be a statement game, because if they lose here, they are out.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to try and push it here, right? Like, this is
Vayne is one to do it.
Exactly. Of all champions to try and go for a do or die strategy, Vayne can make it work, because Vayne's early game, despite everything, isn't complete garbage. It's bad, but it's not complete garbage. Pair that up with the likes of the Braum, who has great damage and brilliant protection, should be able to keep Siratama alive. And Ezreal and Rel, I don't really feel like have great trading power. Great poking power, sure. But can they survive a level 3, level 4 all-in from Ezreal, from a Vayne Braum? I'm a little more hesitant to say yes to that.
I think more so for me, the issue is if Primo goes in, they do not get to go back out, because Shakespeare, she can hold them still, and Siratama will have enough damage after level 2 to kill this Rel handedly once they jump in. I don't think Chico will be able to match that DPS on the side, especially because it's more conditional on being able to throw Qs through a wave, whereas Siratama, they just have to be up close, and if they're hiding behind Shakespeare, I think they are more than happy to dominate this lane. So, coming in now, we've got the half poke, half team fight comp coming in from CGA, and then on the Rascal Jester squad, it's, I would say, equally as disjointed, because they've got part of the team that wants to run through and then a Syndra, so I would say maybe you could argue it's a bit more on the right track. I think that you have to favor CGA just because of their pedigree so far, but I like what Rascal Jester have tried to do here. They put CGA in a really awkward draft spot, and you can feel that in how this draft has played out.
Yeah, and that's why both of these drafts feel a little bit all over the place. Like, the Syndra lock-in I loved, because it really put CGA in such an awkward spot with, like, well, we can lock in our Zoe, because Kaido's feeling confident about that matchup. Siratama, how do you feel about going against his Syndra, and you just hear him screaming in the background of the microphones because he does not want to deal with being one-shot by a Syndra for the 100th time? And that's why the drafting felt so awkward. You're like, okay, we can go for a scrappy bot lane. No crap, we have to lock in Ezreal to stay safe. And then you've got to lock in, you've got double poke, but then you've got a Wukong. It's a little all over the joint. But it's not that they can't work, right? Double poke champions into team fight-esque champions of the Wukong and the Lee Sin. They can do well at actually killing you when you're low. So CGA, their poke has to land. Their poke has to do damage when they are skirmish rounding these objectives here, Mother, because if they don't, you and I have both seen what happens when a poke comp gets into a fight without landing poke, and you
just get run over. You have a Diana on the enemy team with a Braum to follow up. If you are not landing those abilities beforehand, you are just going to get decisively jumped on. And I think this game, we're likely to see Momo as the disengaged Wukong for most of it, as I believe we are ready to go.
Yeah, we'll dive into game number 2 here over at the LJL Academy Playoff game number 2. We did already see Hawk and Axis battling it out. Now CGA and Rascal Jester get their turn coming into here, and as much as I love early game shenanigans, unfortunately, it doesn't look like we're going to get any. And hell, actually, no, never mind. Momo gets stunned up, courtesy of the hook shot from Rando, and that's about as much as it is. Now, Shakespeare, she could be in trouble, as Primo does get the stun, but Kaito doesn't. Oh, does take the Sleepy Trouble Bubble level 1 here, which means they need to corral. Can they run them down? Exhaust is down, Flash is down, so double summoners, but no kill onto Shakespeare.
And that will mean that Cosmic has a pretty easy level 1 in the lane phase because they are competing with a bubble Zoe. But I would say that's still worth getting double summoners out of this Braum early game, as Lee Sin definitely has more stats in this level 1.
What is Kurup doing? This isn't his jungle. I don't know why he thinks he's allowed to work here. Forced a flash, and that was just, I hate to be critical, but that was just bad pathing. There was no need to take that route to get to your blue buff.
I have to agree with you that I think the only reason they would go for that is they were looking to maybe place a ward down on the Raptor camp to see what the Lee Sin's pathing would be early, but you know Kaito has bubble, and I think they may have got a bit overconfident because they forced Momo to base. You know that they have to on this Wukong just to be able to have the stats to survive lane against the Ignite, as somehow Kaito making the level 1 bubble work. This is really what you get when you're that proficient on a champion, and Zoe is a hell of a champ to be proficient on.
Yeah, very difficult to deal with if you can't all in, of course, though. That changes when Cosmic does hit level 3 and level 6. Does make the life a little bit harder, but then again, it's not the Ignite, I'm gonna lane bully you type of Syndra play here. The teleport coming through is very much more so control mage-esque instead of what I like to refer to Syndra, which is an assassin control mage, because she does the same job as Orianna, but she'll also kill you in lane, unlike an Orianna. So hopefully we do get to see a bit more aggression coming from Cosmic as the laning phase continues. Of course, we have to see how that goes because the junglers are on the prowl here, both on the bottom sides of the map here. And Kurup, despite losing the earlier trade, should be fine, even if they are basically just sitting on a ward.
They have been spotted out, and this is the part I was going to be worried about on their behalf, is once you've been seen, knowing you don't have flash, we do have a Lee Sin who has the red buff, and Kurup, I like that they're pulling it to this side right here, but you can see they are found out, and they do not have a summoner to escape.
Yeah, but the red buff tanked the Sonic Wave. That is an MVP level red buff. He's like, yeah, I was fighting you, Kurup, but instead, I'm going to fight Funiwa instead. Now, obviously, this is the fight that the red buff loses, and Kurup, I don't know how to word this any better than this is a borderline disaster for the Rascal Jester jungler here. You've been 3 buffed, because there is not a world where you go and grab the blue buff of Funiwa, and while you will grab a Scuttle Crab here, what are you meant to do here in this situation now? Even Rando's coming to help you out.
They can look to trade these Krog camps, so the biggest question for me is who resets the camp and who leaves it to not reset, as it looks like we will have the Lee Sin resetting the camp completely. Same case on both sides. All right, both of them saying we want the full XP, we want the full gold. So neither going to get punished for that. But now, like you said, Lee Sin is going to have a lot more pressure on this bot lane than Diana has on the top lane. This is a flash, this Diana at level 4. You are not scared of this as Wukong. It doesn't matter that it's magic. It's not something that's actually going to intimidate you underneath a turret. As now, we look at the mid lane, both team members have expended all their corrupting stacks. So it is just going to be attempting to get that last bit of CS, as the Lee Sin hasn't left yet. So they haven't actually done any leveraging of this early lead that they got.
Yeah, and the problem is that Rascal Jester, I feel like they know. I feel like they know that Funiwa is just lurking there. So this is brilliant, actually, as it's just taken so long. Kurup's like, okay, yeah, he was
higher level,
here, guys, and well, hey guys, he is still down here. As we're seeing some forced engage here from Primo, but I'm not sure it's going to work onto Shakespeare. She gets down low, but not taken down. Now Siratama can actually genuinely start to turn this around. CGA have overstayed their welcome, and despite the poor start, Kurup is able to be involved in first blood there, and what a disaster for CGA, as for all of the good work that Funiwa did to put Kurup behind, they overstay.
Might mess around, win a bit of LJL Academy coming out from this vein. So nicely played from the Rascal Jester side, but I think that was just way too tunnel vision from CGA. They're looking at that play saying, all right, this has to work. We can kill this bot lane here. We know that Braum doesn't have flash. We can bully them. And they sat here for the best part of 40 seconds because Diana finished the Krugs and came bot in the meantime. As you see, they get a decent chunk down, but a tower shot is always going to outtrade anything in the early game. As soon as the stun lands, you can see just using that double jump from the Diana has it again because they get the Q into E here. So beautifully tagged, hitting both members, even forces the rail to jump away again at the very end. A lot of summoners blown. If you look right here, all of CGA's bot lane sum's gone. Flash down on the Lee Sin. The closest thing to a silver lining is they will secure this dragon. But look at the levels. The fact that the junglers are even when Diana got starved out of an entire quadrant is, I'm going to say, not good. Not good at the very minimum, because this is the time where Lee Sin should be dominating.
Yeah, I would say not good is a very diplomatic way of putting it. I would say something a bit less kind about that one. As Kura is now, despite being 3-camped, despite having early dragon taken against them, I would say he's just straight up ahead in gold. 2 kills, 150 gold bounty, even has most of what I assume will be a rocket belt in their inventory to boot. And now they can basically just choose to control the top half of the map here, which is brilliant for Rascal Jester here, because not only does it give Kurip access to double buffs, Momo is being bullied quite heavily here, and Kaito has to make the decision, do I roam up and help, or do I try and stay mid lane and keep poking out Cosmic? And right now it does look like he wants to stay, and in fact, I'm a bit surprised Kurip actually chosen not to even contest for the red buff.
I can get why, because Kaito with the bubble can follow 100 times quicker than Cosmic could ever do anything to help there, especially when Kaito could get trades like this down, not even having to use their own Ignite. As you can see now, this is the awkward point for Lee Sin, where you have no camps available, yet Diana still has plenty to path up. Oh, Kaito, you are a bully and a half on this. The Flash Ignite is currently up from that spellbook, so knowing Cosmic cannot stay, this is just going to be Diana collecting even more XP.
Yeah. That's close to Neptune and Kaito, but unfortunately just didn't get the second Ignite down, obviously, their own heroes. So seeing Rando potentially in trouble, but the issue is it's a pushing wave here, so Funiwa shouldn't be able to get a gank and instead just leeches experience off of his top laner. Poor guy. Momo's like, guys, I'm trying to make man up here on top side of the map, and Funiwa's like, no, I'm your landlord, buddy. You gotta pay the experience tax.
It's a level 6 Lee Sin now, at least. That's the one thing you could say after that leash. They even have Primo over here to secure this early Rift Herald. But you can see, based on Chico's position, they know that Europe has to be on this side of the map just because of how many camps have been down and when. So, figuring it out, good on you for CGA. The fact that you lose tower plates to a Vayne, really not good on you.
Yeah, but that's what you need to make this Rift Herald work. But we know that in the LJL, normally, teams are willing to commit 4, hell, even sometimes 5 members to the top half of the map there just to make sure that Rift Herald is secured in their favor. So, I just wonder where they're going to put it, because you can't put a top lane, because Momo's just not in the greatest position here, but instead...
You can if you dive him with 3 people.
I mean, yeah, technically you can do it if you commit 3 people to the top half of the map here, but the issue is that the timing's awful, because the minion wave's there, so you can't even engage.
As you will have both of the CGA members just exit out of that, and the one benefit that they have is the fact that Cosmic was still not able to push the minion wave in. It looks like Kaito may miss maybe a minion, but none of the XP, which is the more important part in the early game. XP is the part that wins games, as we will have that true shot barrage blocked, but the minion wave is pushed in. And one of the main reasons that Herald backfires for me is... We saw right there, Siratama managed to secure 2 tower plates in the meantime while the Herald was being taken, right? So not only do you have the minimum boundary now that you need to place this Rift Herald to get 2 plates, that part sounds easy, but Vayne was getting XP in the bot lane that not only Primo wasn't getting, but Chico wasn't allowed to walk up to because there was a Diana lurking, which is far more impactful in these early levels because of the base stats it offers us. Now, you get at least 1 return tower plate, that's something you gotta be happy with. But look at how respectfully the Rascal Jester bot lane are playing, saying, okay, they're walking very far up. We do have the rail potential remount flash combo to grab somebody here. So playing extremely respectfully, keeping this Vayne safe is what you need to do, because once they start to get some items under their belt, it's going to be so difficult for CJ to actually control them.
Yeah, and it's a bit surprising to see so far that CGA aren't really in the most dominating position here. You'd expect them to be the team in the favorable position here, as, you know, Kaito got their best champion, I think it's fair to say, here in the middle lane. And even with that, however, Kura with those early 2 kills, I think that's kind of where things went a little bit bad, a bit wrong for the likes of Rascal, a little bit wrong for the likes of CGA, sorry. So, a bit of a rough situation for the likes of CGA, and now the question becomes, well, what do you do with that? Because that Rift Herald, you've only got like a minute or 2 at most to use it, and still, it doesn't look like Funiwa knows where to drop it.
There's no good option, because you can't throw it down mid at risk of being jumped on by Diana, and then looking top lane, like you said, it's hard to dive a Camille. Bot lane, you're against a Braum. There's no good lanes where you could set up the dive. It needs to be somebody getting chunked out. I think mid is going to be the most likely option just because Kaito's been getting the best end of trades relative to their side lanes, which is good. At very least, that would get you some pressure on the map, but it needs to be a kill on the Cosmic as well. Otherwise, they can happily just wave clear this. Oh, Kaito, that was beautiful.
Yeah. That looks good. Here's his mid lane. Continues to go in CGA's relative favor here. Kaito, basically honest, I think I'm going to start calling Kaito Zoe a one-trick at this point, because I don't think I've seen him on anything else other than maybe in Aurelia, but I'm not sure that counts.
I'm confident to say that I've only seen Kaito on Zoe. Maybe there's one game outside of that, but when they perform on it like this in the academy scene, you can't really complain. They're doing great work. Ooh.
Yeah, engaged on top side. Momo in a bit of trouble here as Kurup is even visiting. And it's just trying to trade their bot side for top side. But again, Rascal Jester's bot lane is playing very respectfully. They're saying, hey, we don't want to risk the dive, even if we have the light to the Braum. But now Rift Herald is dropped. This will be the first turret here. And while it is a trade that CGA come out on top of vis-a-vis the Rift Herald.
That is going to be not only a silver lining, but it's going to kickstart them back into the game. Trying to snowball Chico towards that Divine Sunder is going to be very important, because at that point, they stop getting threatened by the Camille as much, stop getting threatened as much by the Diana until we start to see 3-4 items come through, when they can start to just tear through your HP regardless of itemization. So this kind of early lead will give Chico the kind of leeway that they need to maneuver around these dragon fights in the coming minutes, which will be important when you look over to see CGA are currently 2-0 up on dragons.
Yeah, in a good position here, but Rascal Jester deciding, let's make something work here. Kura visiting the top side of the map, Momo skirmishing with them. Random wants to be a little bit careful there, but does end up grabbing themselves the kill, and all 3 kills have basically really taken place on the bottom side of the map. No, never mind, I got too excited for that.
I don't think it would have killed at the level 8 Ezreal, but they have also managed to secure Divine Sunder. That's 2-0 up for the Mythics of CGA. There is only the Rocket Belt for the Diana. As we take a look at how this started.
Oh, this is bullying.
Yeah, Momo commits to the trade, and they get zoned off to the left because they know they're just going to get moonfalled if they go right, and funnily enough, it's just a slower death this way. They maybe get a bit of damage onto the wave, but not much. They're just trying to fish for a return kill onto Rando, as it was the best they could look for there.
Yeah, looking for the best of a bad situation there, as Momo has done a good job of circumventing the pressure that comes from one of the strongest top laners in the game right now. A good Camille ruins you, so you're not allowed to play a tank. You have to do something that can skirmish well, and I must say that Momo, I think, has been doing very, very well.
They've been doing fine.
Yeah, okay. I probably shouldn't say very well, but they haven't, made any obvious big mistakes here. We're seeing 4 members of CGA are in fact interested in what's going around mid now. This could just be a bit of an overcommit here for the second Herald, or it seems a bit of a posture power play for the middle tier 1. Let's see which one CGA are more interested in, because while all this is happening, Rando is just re-farming bot side.
And this is the poke comp working with a lead. When you do have the poke comp and they're able to secure objectives like the Rift Herald and like the Baron, you can exert so much pressure in front of a turret that there is genuinely no response to. Unless you commit summoners, there's not much you can ever do. Like, look at this here. You have to use the combo as Cosmic to clear the wave, so Kaito always gets to trade back onto you as you do so. Especially when you're against what we're going to note as a Zoe one-trick for the moment. You can realistically just win this lane by sheer factor of putting them in an awkward spot where they have no good answer. You can see a 20 CS lead occurring in the mid lane. Yes, on the top lane that's balanced out by Rando, and I think Rando does need to be the person that wins this game for Rascal Jester, because This Wukong will not scale a fraction as well as Rando will. If they can get to 2-3 items, then they are going to be a force of nature to deal with. The only thing is, if CGA can hold on and use their leveraging of the Zoe Ezreal combo to put the other 4 members of Rascal Jester out of the game before that point.
Yeah, and that is just applying consistent pressure, right? And we talked about it so many times in the past where when you've got a lead like this, especially for poke comp, you need to keep on top of the objectives, the dragons specifically. If you allow your opponents to maybe take a dragon or 2 without being contested, without being poked down, your composition just kind of seems to lose all of its firepower. So we need to see that coming from CGA. So far, they have done their due diligence, right? Secured 2 of the dragons, posturing for the 3rd, and by dropping Herald in mid, Rascal just have no choice but to find a response. And that response is likely going to include violence.
All about putting the enemy in an awkward situation. As they aren't able to kill that mid lane tower, Sleep goes through and big chunk on Durando.
Oh, they're getting caught on the side. It does kick. And the Magnet Storm as well. What a bully move coming through here. The stopwatch buys time, but unfortunately, Kurt just drops in the blink of an eye. Now, with their jungler gone, Rascal Jester, things were looking up. Things were looking good. But unfortunately, I have to put emphasis on the word "were looking good."
One of the main issues that we are talking about in our first game of the day was over-indexing into CC. That doesn't matter when your CC is knockups. All of Wukong, all of Rel outside of the 1 ability, and the same thing for Lee Sin, knockups. You're going to watch it right here as Keurig walks down to try and get some semblance of dragon control. The boot in, they have no control, they have no control, they are in Zhonya's, wait for it, they have no control, they have no control, they actually had nothing they could do, no quantity of tenacity gets them out there. They would have required best part of 3 flashes to even have a hope, but that is the main problem with this champion against the enemy team of the disrupts that the Wukong can offer, the Lee Sin can offer, even the Rel with just activating Magnet Storm, can actually pull Keurig out of their combo in a way that you really don't have to calculate in most Diana games. So this is going to require some deadly flanks to come through if they're going to be able to take this game. But, and this is a big one, if they do get a flank, there's not much Ezreal and Zoe can do, because they can portal jump and jump away, but Diana can follow either of those.
I mean, we saw that earlier in the match where Kurup did pick up 2 kills early, so there is signs of life for them, but unfortunately, signs of life aren't always good signs of life here, as we're seeing Rascal Jester sort of just not being sure what is going on around them here. Like, it feels like the team is panicking a little bit, and I don't blame them, because
you're at soul point 18 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. It's soul point in what, maybe 2 or 3 minutes, and then they have to worry about soul point. And soul point with a what is that going to be, a ocean dragon, is a pain in the ass to deal with, because then you got to itemize into healing reduction, and then you've got to spend the time farming your waves, and then you realize, oh crap, the dragon is spawning pre 25 minutes, and you're like, okay, what the hell do we do about this?
Especially when you're against double Divine Sunderer champions and a Gore Drinker champion. Realistically, Kaito is the only person who should actually die quickly once this Ocean Soul is collected, if they manage to secure it for CGA, because everybody else just has so much sustain, they can survive. The one silver lining is that Rando, the most important member of Rascal Jester here, does have the Ignite already picked up, that Bramble Vest, so in the side lane they should still be able to win, but it will be much closer and will elongate the amount of time that Momo will be effective in this side lane if they are managed to picking up that Ocean Soul to go with them.
Yeah, and I honestly don't know what Rascal Jester... It sounds so bad to say when the gold is basically dead even, but Rascal Jester feel like they're on the back foot in this situation here. And part of that is the fact that they haven't really done much. Sure, there was this great plays in the early game from Kurup, but after that, I don't really know what Rascal Jester has been able to do, though. It's a nice gank coming out from Kurup after what was a rough early game. But then it's just sort of, I'll sit back in lane and farm and get poked and lose dragons and no crap dragon spawning in a minute and a half, and how we actually meant to fight this. Because I don't see how Rascal Jester, and it sounds really ironic, start the fight without Kurup throwing themselves into the fire and praying for a good engage.
And I have to add the unfortunate asterisk on there of Kurup had a really nice counter gank bot lane. Their best move of the game so far was punishing what I will say was a very overzealous mistake from this Lee Sin. Sticking to that bot lane 40 seconds instead of farming was punishing tunnel vision. And at this point, you can't realistically get that level of tunnel vision outside of securing an objective, which there are on the map. Rascal Jester, though, have the one-up in the sense of they have far, far quicker objective takes than CGA could even imagine. Because you have Diana, despite being nerfed on the most recent patch that these teams are playing on, does not change it to the epic monsters, so still shreds them. You have the Vayne, enough said. You even have Syndra, who is definitely no slouch at taking these neutral objectives. And then you have a Camille with the Braum who can block. If this team is given Baron access, they will kill it in seconds. And the fact that the Dragon is currently being postured around, this just needs a minor window, a minor error, and CGA could lose it all.
Yeah, well, we're seeing an engage coming through here already, but that's very far forward for Rando. The rest of Rascal Jester are going to have to back up their top laner, but they're going to get pulled in for the rest of the fight there as their backline needs to stay safe. But the Shirotama is in a spot of trouble there. The Ignite goes down, but may not actually look that bad for Rascal Jester. CGA are low as they re-engage to the fight there. Rando throwing themselves into the fire. CGA, they were not able to poke down low enough to win the fight, but even losing 2 members to the one of Rascal Jester, they're healthy enough. I actually think they still secure Dragon.
They can have priority on this one as, oh no, Shakespeare, she's tagged out by a bubble here. And the fight looked like it was extremely back and forth. Starting off with a boot onto the Camille, looked like it was going to be doomed. But somehow Rascal Jester recover, and Kurup is still alive, has the flash, has the smite, most importantly. They're actually able to walk back in here. Moonfall not up though.
Be careful. Yeah, Finiwa. Oh my god, the constantly sit on the side. That's beautiful there. CGA, look at Kaido's positioning. Has to basically be a distraction there as Cosmic gets jumped on and taken down. And Rascal Jester, Kaido threw them completely out of hooks. They're like, why is this guy in the middle of our heart composition here? And now Kurup has basically no health. And never mind, doesn't have any health to boot. So obsessed over the Dragon's Soul, Rascal Jester lose it. And CGA will secure themselves the Ocean Soul at 23 minutes. Marvin Izzle, we have a 28-minute Elder Soul.
We saw Rascal Jester get into this game by punishing tunnel vision. They are knocked out of this game again by tunnel vision themselves. Keep your eye on this play. You see that it all kicks off with the Camille going in, trying to get the pick onto the jungle. They do commit the ultimate, but guess what? They're just booted, forced to Zhonya straight away. It's a good response by Rascal Jester to position around them. Massive CC to counteract. And watch this, Rando gets to walk away. Shakespeare, she gets to walk away. Momo is killed immediately, as this is excellent aggro juggling from Rascal Jester, but Siratama goes a bit too far in, flashes to the side to try and finish off the Rel, but that's not a worthwhile trade. And now, this is just the poke of the Ezreal and the Zoe still alive. They're able to exert so much pressure around. Look at these summoners that Kaito is just cycling through on the side. Nobody can realistically interact with them. As now, the Ezreal comes in and is a 3v4, but the 3 of CGA can do so much more in this situation. No ultimate from Rando, they can't follow. And watch this from Kaito. Like you said, they're in the middle. They're just having a dance. They're buying time for Momo, who collects a kill. And watch Kurup here, they are focusing on this dragon. They shut the wall down and they just stare over the pit, which means they are unawares to the Wukong, who sneaks around and blows them up. Jungler dead, objectives secured, now Baron is the one on the table.
Yeah, and the problem for Rascal Jester is after what just happened, how are you meant to approach a composition that is now just straight up stronger than you? You can't fight them. And the way you beat a poke composition is you don't get picked. Unfortunately, Kurup, that was anti-caster curse there as get alive. But in this situation, Rascal Jester need to find the fight. But even though they are not even that far behind, the Dragon Soul makes up for so much that I'm not even sure that if Rascal Jester find a good fight, that they're going to be able to win it. Because Siratama has to get through so much regen, and there is currently only 2 items on the side of Rascal Jester as dealing with that regen.
And right now, Saitama, they are at least 750 or so gold off of finishing the Wits, and they've picked it up now. So they have completed that, which it means they can attempt to maneuver around these fights. You have to look at CGA and go, actually, it's a lot of magic damage from where it matters. The Ezreal and the Zoe are the primary issues for this Vayne, so being able to kite around there with the extra Wits End movement speed gives them a window to go for outplays, but it significantly hampers their DPS, which, like you're saying, they have a lot of regen to tear through, which is going to be noticeable, especially when the Vayne is already clipped their wings for DPS.
Yeah, I'm getting more and more concerned, Tim, as we are seeing Rascal Jester setting up around the Baron itself.
Kaito's on his own.
Could find Kaito, but the issue is that Kaito can also find them here. And with the Everfrost available in their Spell Thief slot, because, well, they're a thief at that point, you're not dying, Rascal Jester can't start the objective, Rascal Jester Gunga gets tagged, Rascal Jester gets nuked, that sounds about right for a poke-on, but it is an ambush being set here.
Watch Kaito.
I got so bloodthirsty here. Funiwa's on the flank. This could be a massive kick, but he does get sorted out by a ward there and is forced to immediately jump. But the poke keeping coming through as Momo posturing. Saitama, though, is charging forwards onto Kaito into the backline. Momo will be forced to back away, running
Saitama's alone.
for the safety of his there, but the Saitama, could they be engaged on? And they lose. Oh, no! You can't lose the Vayne like that. Saitama had bloodlust in his eyes there, but unfortunately, you talk about it, the tunnel vision giveth, tunnel vision taketh.
That was Kaito coming to save their top laner. Otherwise, Momo was getting solo killed by this Vayne. And because they exert that pressure, the fight gets split apart, and there's nothing you can do against a poke comp when they have the terrain advantage. Ezreal and Zoe were just able to throw abilities at you with no cost to themselves. There is no reason that they can't just, well, bully you over the wall to realistically no counterplay. Because Cosmic, yeah, they can try and one-shot somebody, but who are you hitting? The Zhonya's Zoe or the Zhonya's Ezreal? Both of them in pocket. And you can watch it right here. It's Rascal Jester looking for a pick.
There's no damage.
Not able to tag that initial engage. Kurup had the angle, but they couldn't get in. And you can see they have to fight to try and get themselves to safety. But watch, you have Saitama now on the top side. Keep your eye on this Vayne. They nearly get Momo down, but it's only Kaito showing their face that they're worried they're getting bubbled. And because Rascal Jester expended their abilities to fight their way to safety going down, Saitama has nobody that can come and save them. They get killed, the Baron goes down, and now it is a dance around the Elder.
Yeah, and the problem is that, well, Rascal Jester have to either commit fully for the Elder, which means one member of CGA pushing waves, gives them a little bit... Rascal Jester have obsessed over the dragon a little bit too much, but maybe it's just a flank, Melvin, or maybe there's an ambush that we're not seeing here, as Funiwa has found out Saitama diving on top and kicks him right into the waiting hands of his team, and that is the AD carry gone. The hyper carry of Rascal Jester has already been put 6 feet under. And you know what? The rest of his team can join him at this point here, as the rest of CGA are diving forwards onto Rascal Jester. Their Rando is potentially the last man retreating home. Unfortunately, him and Kurup will share the same fate. Hell, they can share the same grave at this point for as long as CGA care, because there's no easy way to put this, but CGA, I think they're gonna win this game, Melvin Izzle. I don't know what gives me that impression.
They do have the option to take both mid and bot lane inhib here, but it looks like they won't threaten for the end. Baron buff's still available. If Kaito gets a good bubble, then there's always the threaten, but because Shakespeare's alive, she can keep at least somebody safe for a moment. Now, we have the Elder Dragon up, and I would say most importantly, Rando invested their TP to look for that kind of flanking pick that Rascal Jester were going for the desperation play on. Now, don't have it. It's only the Syndra with teleport. There is a couple wards to go, but Syndra's not exactly the flanking champion. So it is a race. If Rascal Jester don't get here in time, I see no way that they can physically survive a single bubble from Kaito. They are running. It's got to be down to 5k, 2k. It's
not
gone.
Even. Yeah, that's the problem. Rascal Jester, nothing they could do. There was nothing in that situation they could do after losing this fight here, and specifically Saitama just too far forwards.
They live. That's the worst part. You don't even get a single return kill, and you lose, I believe it's 3 members all in all by the end of this play.
Yeah, because Kurup goes down here with Rando.
And it just enables you to... There you go, that's it. Over the wall, AoE killed. And it just allows the double inhib push, and we talk about poke comps. They only win when they're ahead. But guess what? When they're ahead, they're the hardest comps to play against, hands down. 1-3-1 can be a nuisance, but they struggle to end the game, because when you get to this point, looking at the enemy base, you can't siege as well. 1-3-1 loses all of its cool tricks because you have to take a 5v5. Poke doesn't care. Poke with an Elder Dragon really doesn't care. If Kaito lands a long-range Q, they have Rabadons, they have a Horizon focus. I'm pretty sure they just kill Siratama or Cosmic 100-0.
Yeah, it's an impossible situation here for Rascal Jester. Now, they get one choice left in Mother Nizzle, which is they get to choose when they die. Because they get to choose when do we go for this final fight, or at least I like to think that they get to choose when they go for the final fight. Apparently that's not even their right to choose. CGA has taken their base, CGA has taken the dragons,
now. One tower left.
is taking the right to choose as they finally commit to the fight there, but against the Elder, unfortunately, it's just going from bad to worse. Siratama is on the flank. He's on the wrong side of his own base, and he falls instantaneously, and the rest of Rascal Jester will join their 80 carry 6 feet down under. As the Nexus turrets do fall, the Nexus will join it there, and CGA, maybe not the cleanest game we've seen from them, but still took the win.
The expected result, but a hard-fought one nonetheless. Some early game shenanigans going out of their favor. A bit of tunnel vision, I think, is realistically the way we summarize this game. Went tunnel vision on one end, went tunnel vision to the other. It was just a game of who could see the bigger picture. And in the end, CGA saw it first, and they saw it the most clearly.
Yeah, but it wasn't just that there was no signs of life in Rascal Jester, right? I really want to address the fact that it looked good at the start. Yes, I will say time and time again, Kurup had a rough early game jungle. Let's not beat around the bush on that one. But the fact that they were able to get the double kill early on, courtesy of the counter gank in bot side, was a sign of life that Rascal Jester needed to get back into this game. And it was brilliant. And then CGE said, okay, but we have Rift Town. Okay, but we have 2 dragons. Okay, but we have just a stronger mid lane presence than you. And then suddenly Rascal Jester didn't really have anything to retaliate with. And then, well, as we've talked about time and time again, against the poke comp, if you can't engage, that happens to you, what we just witnessed, because you can't engage because you die running in. You can't run away because you just die tired. And if you don't do anything, you die anyway. So what do you do? Like, there is no answer.
It's hard to go through and speculate where things could have been done better, because there's always those things where you could buff out and say, all right, you could have done this a bit differently. I think that we had Rando get quite far ahead in the top lane on their own. And maybe what things they could do was roam down to mid more, keep Kaito down, because we saw they constantly had mid prio, and even through the awful first 3, not first 3, the good first 3, poor next 3 levels on the Lee Sin in the early game, they were recovered because Kaito constantly had mid prio. They were always the first one to respond, and even off of that initial play that got rid of Kurup's flash, it was because Kaito had the bubble. They got first blood because Kaito had the bubble. And they blew both of Shakespeare's cooldowns. She didn't have flash or exhaust for the lane, so there was no chance of the Vayne Brom getting prio because of the bubble. I think that Kaito Zoe is one of those champions that if you're not banning, you need to have not only a good answer to, but you need to have multiple, because you saw the logic, right? The Brom blocks the bubble. You have the Syndra who could stun. But yeah, that's about it for them.
Bit of a rough one there. But, guys, it is far from over. There are still 2 more quarterfinal games, and then the semi-finals waiting in the wings for you. But on that note, we'll be going to a short break. But when we come back, DFM Academy and Burning Core Academy teams will be butting heads. So don't go anywhere.